MattiAce, and this is going to be my first ever beginner's tutorial for flying ESF. And even though I have hundreds of ESF videos on my channel and plenty of tutorials as well, I've never really tried to make a beginner's guide or beginner's tutorial before. And even though those other tutorials might be interesting to players that are new to flying in Planetside 2, keep in mind that those are made for very experienced pilots who want to push themselves to become true ace pilots. Now there are three types of ESFs in Planetside 2. The one that I'm flying here is called the Mosquito. It's for the Terran Republic. Now the Vanu has the Scythe and the NC have the Reaver. It's called Empire Specific Fighters, ESF. And the first thing that I want to point out here is that you should not consider an ESF a fighter jet. Not in any way the way that you've seen in Battlefield, in any of the Battlefield games, because an ESF does not in any way try to resemble anything that we have on planet Earth. The laws of physics are quite different from anything that you can relate to from real life. So now before the actual tutorial part of this tutorial begins, I will show you a 3 minutes uncut piece of gameplay. The weapon that I'm using is the default nose gun called M18 Needler, also flying with the wingman, Iggy. And what you see in the beginning here, it takes a long time to learn. So notice when I'm turning here how the thrusters change direction. This is something that we're going to spend a lot of time with in this video, and I'm going to explain to you the difference between flight mode and hover mode. And I'm also going to use a term called the reverse maneuver. And maneuvering in general is something that you have to spend some time with before you understand it. Then you have to spend more time in order to control it, and yet even more time before you can master it. But you have to also be able to aim while doing these things, and aiming with an ESF is a little bit tricky as well, because many times you can't put your aim directly on target. You need to lead, meaning that you have to shoot ahead of the enemy in the direction of where it's moving, and you need to calculate for how far ahead you need to shoot in order for your bullets to connect. I also want to point out that when it comes to turning and rolling and some such, I do not use any key bindings for this, but there are lots of pilots who do that. And I will go through some of the most common settings that people use, but if you can get a hold of a big mouse pad, then I would recommend the bigger the better. There are a couple of different styles of flying, but since this is a beginner's guide, I'm not going to cover that in this video. And the weapon that I will be using in the video is going to be the default nose gun of the Reaver. Anything that you see in this tutorial, however, can of course be transferred into the other two empires as well. And for each empire you will have access to 3 nose guns that are suitable for this type of air-to-air combat. Now, one of the advices you have probably heard if you've asked somebody who's more experienced than you is get to VR and just practice control and aim and learn how to handle an ESF. I have also given this advice countless of times, and I still stick with it. Now, a lot of inexperienced players, they probably do that. They go into VR, they spawn an ESF, and it's like, yeah, now what? You fly around in VR for like 10 or 15 minutes maybe, but if you don't know how to actually practice and what to do once you are here, then that might be wasted time. So let me first start off with some basic terms here. This is called pitching up and pitching down. I do this by moving my mouse away from me but for pitching up and towards me in order to pitch down. This can of course also be done by key bindings, and there are plenty of players that prefer to use mouse 4 and 5 for these type of movements. Now if I move my mouse to the left, I make this roll. If I move it to the right, I roll to the other side. And while hovering still like this, I need to constantly tap space in order to not lose altitude and crash into the ground. For hovering like this, you need to tap the space bar once or twice per second. So now another important thing both for ESF gameplay and all other vehicle gameplay is switching between third-person view and first-person view. I have set this to key T. Now let me talk a little bit about my key bindings, the ones that I use, and this is a little bit personal, so other players will probably use other things. I use the left control in order to descend. It's a very important key for controlling in air-to-air combat. I don't use these keys at all, pitch up, pitch down, or roll left or right. I use that with the mouse. Now this key, however, is quite important, at least once you get a little bit more familiar with the ESF gameplay. It's called throttle analog. And basically what it does is that it allows you to brake faster. It just shuts your engines off. And basically it will look like this. There I hit the analog throttle key, and without touching anything else on the keyboard or mouse, right now I'm in hover mode. And by just pressing forward again, I get back into flight mode, and here I'm using the regular brake, which is S, and I get back into hover mode, but just a little bit slower. And yeah, when you're in hover mode, you can do a little bit of different maneuvers, which gives you the possibility to dodge incoming fire in a way that is relatively unique to the Planetside 2 gameplay. So now, in order to get some actual value out of being here in VR, you need to have a couple of exercises that actually improves your flying. So now let's first talk about adjusting your aim sideways. This is something that is a little bit tricky, and of course you have the D key for moving your aim to the right and your A key to moving your aim to the left, which of course moves your entire ESF in said directions. Now if you have the dogfighting airframe, this movement is a lot stronger, but in most situations you need to use the pitch movements in order to adjust your aim, not A and D. A and D is for just minor adjustments and fine-tuning your aim in certain situations. So what I suggest is that when you want to aim to the left, you roll to the left and then you pitch up like this. Then you roll to the right and you pitch up. All this while you tap space, and every once in a while, like every 5 seconds, you also hit the analog throttle key in order to maintain your position and not lose altitude. So basically this first little exercise is about finding two fixed targets and switching between them. Now once you can do this slowly, you need to speed up the process, and you need to also try to be more precise with your aim. Decide ahead of time where you want to put your aim and try to put it at the same position over and over. Also for this exercise, it's important that you are able to maintain hovering in one position. Now hovering is normally something that I would advise against in all situations, because any momentum will of course make you a harder target. But any momentum should be controlled by you. None of it should happen on accident. So this is just a starting point. And for the next little exercise, I would recommend you to do the very opposite. I have found another little hilltop here that I have decided to have as my target, and the point of this exercise is to maintain momentum with your ESF while maintaining your aim fixed on the same target, which is quite tricky actually. Now the way you gain momentum, as you can see, my afterburner is going down quite a lot. I'm using it to gain momentum. I'm trying to dodge actually the way I would dodge incoming fire from an enemy ESF. Now this is something that it will take a while to know what is the best ways to do it, but if you are uncertain, switching between control and space once every other second will make you a lot harder than just hovering still. Space control is actually such a popular dodging technique that it's become a bit of a term, and yeah, we make fun of it a little bit here and there. Now these exercises might seem very different from actual in-game combat, but the fact is, if you can control your ESF this way, it is going to get you a long way, especially if you are a relatively new player in Planetside 2, or if you're just new to flying. So now you might have heard about the term called the reverse maneuver. Now with an ESF you can fly backwards, and this allows you to come up with a lot of unique maneuvers that you can only do, as far as I know, in Planetside 2. And one thing that I would like to... Now this is not really a reverse maneuver, but I'm just going to show you real quick here how you can fly backwards with an ESF. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to spin backwards around this tower. Now, I've covered this in the past, but I'll just quickly show you here anyway. So basically I tilt the ESF to the left if I decide to go in this direction, and just by holding space and moving my mouse towards me, which is the same as pitching down, I'm able to just basically fly backwards like this. And every now and then I also use the afterburners in order to gain a little bit extra momentum. I also noticed that the only upgrade I have on the ESF here is the extra afterburner. They are maxed out. Everything else is stock, and that is because, yeah, this is a beginner's tutorial, and a lot of new players haven't decided what upgrades they want, or they may not have enough certs to get them. Now, getting back to aiming again, the most obvious way of improving and practicing your aim is of course to shoot dummies that you will find all around this virtual reality area. Now, with air to ground, there are a few different things that you need to focus on, which is why I decided to practice a little bit on these guys that are up on this little mountaintop, and I'm focusing a lot on maneuvering while shooting, so I keep a little bit of momentum and I just hover for a second here and there while I'm shooting. And this is important both for air-to-air and for air-to-ground. Now, when you fine-tune your aim in situations like this is actually when you can use the A and the D keys, even for air-to-air. And as you can see here, now I'm just hovering and I'm adjusting my aim using those two keys. Now, if you do this on the live server, that what you see me doing here, hovering like this, you are not going to last long. An ESF is a very easy target and you do not tank a lot of damage. This is going to get you insta-gibbed, but as an exercise in VR, this is something that you have to know that you can control, and the time and dedication that you put into each exercise and whatever other exercises that you can come up with yourself or that you can get from other players is going to be the deciding factor in how well you do once you get back live and once you face opponents that are going to shoot back at you.
Mer knockback is here, Ace. You're fighting mer knockback.
Mer knockback.
Oh, you're being jumped. I'm not you, but the guy behind you. Oh, it's Tox.
Thank you.
There's one side here that's not one of us. One Weaver, one thingy, Mozzie.
It's Spitcat.
I'm going to have a 16 KD soon.
Yeah, the air-to-air gameplay in Planetside 2 is very unique, it's very complicated, and it has caused a lot of frustration for a lot of players. Now, why it is so hard to get into is because of a number of different factors. Now, of course, the game is about 2 years old, and some of us more experienced pilots, we started flying already in beta. But unlike almost all other playstyles that you find in Planetside 2, whatever experience you have from other games doesn't really transfer over to the air-to-air gameplay in Planetside 2. Infantry does. If you've played infantry in other games, you will probably get the hang of it quite quickly in Planetside 2 as well. The same goes for tanking. It is unique, but it is not as unique as the air gameplay is compared to other games. Now, I have hundreds of videos flying all 3 ESFs, and I have plenty of tutorials as well. But even though you might find the other tutorials and the tips and help that I give in my other videos interesting and they might be helpful, none of my former videos has actually been directed to new players. So this is the first time. Your feedback for this video is going to be very important. As an already experienced pilot, it's hard for me to have a perspective for what it's like for new players. And it's quite important for me for upcoming tutorials to let me know what part of this video that was helpful, if any, and if not, then what is it that you are facing, that you are struggling with, and that you need help with. As a new player in Planetside 2, you're going to face a lot of challenges, but if you feel like giving up and you feel like the frustration is too much, keep in mind that there are a lot of experienced players that are very helpful, and I want to give a couple of shout-outs here to some of the other YouTubers that I know are very helpful. Now, the first shout-out will go to Rel, who, among other things, is probably the biggest or strongest driving force when it comes to helping new players into Planetside 2. It was actually one of his videos about this subject that inspired me to make this video. The next YouTuber that I would like to mention is Mukas. He makes high-quality montages and also weapon reviews, killstreak videos, and gives you a lot of tips and tricks with a lot of helpful content on his channel. The next content creator is STL Youngblood. Now, there isn't all that many pilots left in the game that are also providing the community with helpful videos, but Youngblood is one of them, and you should definitely check his channel out. Another YouTuber and streamer is Zoran the Bear. There's a lot of fun stuff happening on his channel, and he also makes weapon reviews and guides, among other things, of course. Another guy who is always happy to provide you with great content is Dratamus. He's also streaming, and among guides and weapon reviews, he also has a lot of entertaining videos. Definitely worth checking out. Next up is Kamikaze78. Rants, weapon reviews, and a variety of great, helpful, and entertaining stuff. And the last one that I will mention in this video is Orbital Strike Gaming. So now there are plenty of other YouTubers that I should mention, and the reason why I picked these 7 is because they have consistently been providing the community with guides and weapon reviews and videos that are useful for players that are new to Planetside 2. Now the links to these other YouTubers will be found in the description below this video. So hopefully I will be able to come out with more ESF beginner guides in the future. I gotta admit it's a little bit hard for me to put myself in the situation of what it's like for a player that has only a few hours of flight time in their ESFs, but by all means ask questions and let me know what you would like me to cover in the future, and hopefully I will be able to get that going. So yeah, I will end this video here. I will say thank you all for watching and bye for now.
All of is dead.
Ah, so, yeah, nice, side is down. with the cougar.
Yeah.